One of the wildest Nolan Ryan moments ever was when he got into it with White Sox batter Robin Ventura. Ventura charged the mound, but Ryan wasn't having it. He put him in a headlock and started throwing punches. Even years later, people still talk about it like it just happened. It was one of those crazy baseball fights you just can't forget. Back in 1993, while pitching for the Texas Rangers, Nolan Ryan found himself at the center of one of the most unforgettable brawls in baseball history. It all started when he hit Chicago White Sox batter Robin Ventura with a pitch. Instead of just taking his base, Ventura decided to charge the mound, a move he probably regretted almost instantly. Ryan, who was 46 years old at the time, didn't back down. Instead, he grabbed Ventura in a headlock and started landing punches. It was a wild moment that had the crowd going crazy and is still talked about decades later. The fight led to a lot of debate. Some thought Ryan was just defending himself, while others felt he might have overreacted. But honestly, it fit right in with his reputation. Ryan wasn't just a great pitcher, he was intense, competitive, and sometimes downright intimidating on the mound. Some people saw him as a bit arrogant or standoffish, while others admired the fire he brought to the game. Either way, he was one of those players who demanded respect, whether you loved him or hated him. Of course, when talking about Ryan, there's more than just legendary fights. There are also plenty of debates and even a few conspiracy theories. One of the most talked about topics is whether he ever used steroids. Ryan pitched deep into his 40s and somehow managed to keep throwing gas the whole time. Because of that, some people have speculated that he might have used performance enhancers. However, there's never been any actual evidence to back up those claims, and Ryan has never been directly linked to steroids. Then there's the mystery of why he never won a Cy Young Award. With over 5,000 strikeouts, 7 no-hitters, and an absolutely dominant presence on the mound, you'd think he would have taken home the award at least once. But for whatever reason, maybe bad timing, maybe bad luck, he never did. It's something that still bugs a lot of fans who feel he was more than deserving. People wanted him to win because his impact on the game was undeniable. He wasn't just great, he was legendary. Ryan's journey to becoming a baseball legend started when the New York Mets took a chance on him in the 12th round of the 1965 MLB draft. At just 18 years old, he signed with the team and quickly got to work in the minors. He spent that first season bouncing between the Marion Mets in the Appalachian League and the Florida Instructional League, where he went 6-9 with a 4.33 ERA. His strikeout numbers were already impressive, 150 in 120 innings, but control was still an issue. By 1966, Ryan was making serious noise. Pitching for the Class A Greenville Mets, he dominated with a 17-2 record, a 2.51 ERA, and a jaw-dropping 272 strikeouts in 183 innings. His performance earned him a promotion to Double-A Williamsport, where he continued racking up strikeouts, finishing the season with 307 in just 202 innings. That was enough to get him a late-season call-up to the big leagues. When Ryan made his MLB debut for the Mets in 1966, he was the second youngest player in the league. He only appeared in 2 games, but he made his mark, striking out Pat Jarvis for his first career K, while also giving up his first big league home run to Joe Torre. In 1967, Ryan's progress hit a wall. He missed most of the season due to illness, an arm injury, and his service in the Army Reserve. He only managed to pitch 7 innings in the minors that year, but by 1968, he was back with the Mets for good, sticking in the majors until his retirement in 1993. Despite his talent, Ryan struggled to find a consistent role with the Mets. Their rotation was stacked with stars like Tom Seaver and Jerry Koosman, so he was mostly used as a reliever and spot starter. Ryan played a key role in the Mets' incredible 1969 World Series run. In the National League Championship Series against the Braves, he pitched 7 innings in relief to help complete a sweep. Then in the World Series, he locked down Game 3 against the Orioles with 2 2/3 shutout innings. That win gave the Mets a 2-1 series lead, and they went on to win it all. Surprisingly, despite his long career, that was Ryan's only World Series appearance. By 1970, Ryan was flashing his potential, tying a Mets record with 15 strikeouts in a single game. Just a few days later, Seaver shattered that mark with 19 Ks, a record Ryan would eventually match in 1974. Ryan later credited Seaver for helping him develop into more than just a hard thrower, teaching him how to truly pitch. His final season with the Mets in 1971 was a roller coaster. He started strong with a 2.24 ERA in the first half, but completely fell apart after the All-Star break, posting a 7.74 ERA, the biggest second-half decline for a starter in MLB history. The Mets decided to trade him after the season, a move Ryan didn't want. He felt betrayed at the time, but later understood the business side of baseball when he took over running the Texas Rangers. In his 5 seasons with the Mets, Ryan's numbers were decent but not spectacular. A 29-38 record, a 3.58 ERA, and 493 strikeouts in 511 innings. But he was just getting started. His best years were still ahead of him. When the Mets traded Nolan Ryan to the California Angels in 1971, they had no idea they were giving up a legend. At the time, Ryan was just a hard-throwing but wild young pitcher. The Angels, though, gave him a real shot as a starter, and he took off. In 1972, he struck out 329 batters, more than anyone else in the league, and within 5 years, that number wasn't even his personal best. Ryan was electric but also unpredictable. He could dominate a game, but his high strikeout totals came with a lot of walks. Still, he made history in 1973, breaking Sandy Koufax's single-season strikeout record with 383 Ks. That same year, he tossed 2 no-hitters, including one against the Tigers, where Norm Cash famously tried to bat with a table leg, knowing he had no shot anyway. Despite all the no-hitters and strikeouts, Ryan never won a Cy Young Award. The closest he came was in 1973 when he finished second. He kept breaking records, including throwing a fastball clocked at 100.8 miles per hour in 1974, the fastest ever recorded at the time. He had 4 no-hitters with the Angels and led the league in strikeouts almost every year, but the team struggled and management didn't value him as highly as they should have. In 1979, after the Angels finally made the playoffs, he left for the Houston Astros. Ryan became baseball's first million-dollar player when he signed with Houston. He continued racking up strikeouts through his 5th no-hitter in 1981, and in 1983, he passed Walter Johnson to become baseball's all-time strikeout king. He kept battling, even when he didn't always get the run support. In 1987, at age 40, he led the league in ERA and strikeouts, but had an 8-16 record because his team just didn't score for him. In 1989, Ryan signed with the Texas Rangers at age 42, proving he still had plenty left. That year, he struck out 301 batters and, in 1990, threw his 6th no-hitter. Ryan's most famous moment with the Rangers wasn't even about pitching. In 1993, when White Sox slugger Robin Ventura charged the mound after being hit by a pitch, Ryan, 46 years old, grabbed Ventura in a headlock and landed 6 solid punches before teammates broke it up. It became one of baseball's most legendary fights. His career ended that season when he tore a ligament in his arm. But what a run. He played a record 27 seasons, threw 7 no-hitters, and finished with 5,714 strikeouts, numbers that may never be touched. Ryan wasn't just a great pitcher. He was a legend, playing the game on his terms until the very end. After retiring from baseball, Nolan Ryan didn't just sit back and relax. He stayed busy with business, baseball, and even a little TV. He became the principal owner of Ryan Sanders Sports and Entertainment, which owns the Round Rock Express, the AAA team for the Texas Rangers. He also got a cool moment in 2005, throwing out the first pitch at Game 3 of the World Series, the first ever series game played in Texas. Ryan also spent some time writing, co-authoring 6 books. His autobiographies Miracle Man and Throwing Heat tell his story, while The Road to Cooperstown focuses on his Hall of Fame journey. He even wrote instructional books, including Nolan Ryan's Pitcher's Bible, a must-read for any young pitcher. Outside of baseball, Ryan was involved in banking. He was the majority owner of Express Bank of Alvin before selling his stake in 2005. He also ran a restaurant in Three Rivers, Texas, and served on the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission from 1995 to 2001. If you lived in Texas, you probably saw him in TV commercials, especially his long-running ads for Advil. Ryan also teamed up with the federal government to promote physical fitness, even lending his name to the Nolan Ryan Fitness Guide in 1994. However, in 2000, he suffered a heart attack and had to undergo double bypass surgery. But that didn't slow him down too much. In 2008, Ryan took on a big role in baseball again when the Texas Rangers hired him as team president. After the 2009 season, he and Chuck Greenberg put in a bid to buy the Rangers from owner Tom Hicks. It came down to a showdown with Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, but at midnight on August 5, 2010, Ryan and Greenberg's group won the auction with a $385 million bid. Greenberg became CEO, and Ryan stayed on as president. In 2011, Greenberg left due to differences with Ryan, so Ryan took over as CEO as well. Even though oil tycoons Ray Davis and Bob Simpson owned bigger stakes in the team, Ryan became the face of the franchise. In 2013, the Rangers made some front office changes, and Ryan's role shifted slightly, but he still ran the team. However, later that year, he decided to step down as CEO. Not long after, in February 2014, Ryan joined the Houston Astros as an executive advisor. His son, Reed Ryan, had already been hired as the team's president of business operations. During Nolan's time with Houston, the Astros won the 2017 World Series and made it back in 2019. But after that season, Reed was demoted, and soon after, Nolan decided he was done with the Astros too. Ryan's legacy is one of a kind. No one will ever match what he did on the mound. He played an incredible 27 seasons, more than any other player since 1900. He holds some of the most impressive records in baseball history, including the most strikeouts, the lowest hits per 9 innings, and the most no-hitters. He's also near the top in games started, innings pitched, and shutouts. Batters had a tough time against him. Opposing hitters managed just a 204 batting average. Ryan also struck out more than one generation of players, fanning 7 different father-son duos. His career lasted so long that he played during the terms of 7 U.S. presidents, from Lyndon B. Johnson to Bill Clinton. Of course, with all those strikeouts came some wild moments. Ryan holds the record for most walks and wild pitches, and he's near the top in losses and hit batters. He was also the first pitcher in history to give up 10 grand slams. But even with some of those flaws, his dominance was undeniable. Ryan's impact went far beyond stats. He and Frank Robinson are the only 2 MLB players to have their numbers retired by 3 teams. The Angels retired his number 30 in 1992, and both the Rangers and Astros retired his number 34 in 1996. When Ryan was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1999, he received 98.79% of the vote, one of the highest ever. He chose to wear a Rangers cap on his plaque, honoring his Texas roots in major milestones like his 300th win and 5,000th strikeout. He's been honored in so many ways, inducted into multiple halls of fame, ranked among the greatest players, and even had a highway named after him. There's a Nolan Ryan Junior High School in Texas, and his foundation continues to support youth, education, and community programs. Even years after his retirement, Ryan's legend continues to grow. In 2022, a documentary called Facing Nolan was released, giving fans an even closer look at the life and career of one of baseball's all-time greats. And that's a wrap for today's video. If you had a good time, be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss out. See you in the next one. Duke Snider ran into serious trouble over $100,000 in tax fraud charges, and it wasn't pretty. He tried to defend himself, saying he was just trying to bounce back after some bad investments drained his savings. But not everyone bought that excuse. People felt it didn't justify what he did, and as time went on, his troubles only seemed to pile up. Snider had an incredible baseball career, but he also found himself caught up in some serious trouble off the field. In 1995, both he and fellow Hall of Famer Willie McCovey pleaded guilty to federal tax fraud charges. It turned out they had failed to report income from sports card shows and memorabilia sales, money they had made on the side after their playing days were over. For Snider, that unreported income added up to $100,000 between 1984 and 1993. When the truth came out, he admitted that he had done it on purpose, explaining that he was struggling financially after bad investments drained his savings. Of course, the government wasn't too sympathetic to that excuse. Snider ended up having to pay $30,000 in back taxes, plus a $5,000 fine, and he was sentenced to 2 years of probation. McCovey faced a similar punishment, with a fine and probation as well. For years, the whole thing was a stain on both of their reputations. But in 2017, long after the dust had settled, President Barack Obama officially pardoned them, wiping the charges from their records. That wasn't the only controversy Snider found himself in during his career, though. Back in 1955, he put up an incredible season for the Brooklyn Dodgers and was a strong candidate for the National League MVP award. The race was tight, but in the end, his own teammate, Roy Campanella, took home the trophy. The final vote tally, Campanella won with 226 points, while Snider finished just behind him with 221. Each player received 8 first-place votes, so it really couldn't have been much closer. But then came the controversy. According to a widely believed story, a sports writer from Philadelphia, who had been hospitalized at the time, submitted a ballot where he accidentally wrote Campanella's name in both the first place and fifth place slots. Many believe that he had meant to write Snider's name in one of those spots instead. When the mistake was noticed, the Baseball Writers Association of America debated whether they should toss out the ballot entirely. In the end, they decided to keep it, counting the first-place vote for Campanella, but leaving the fifth-place vote blank. If they had disqualified the ballot, Snider would have won the award with 221 points to Campanella's 212. And if that fifth-place vote had gone to Snider as intended, he would have edged out Campanella by a single point, 227 to 226. However, not everyone is convinced this story is accurate. Sports writer Joe Posnanski has suggested that, while there was indeed a mix-up, the details weren't exactly as they had been told over the years. According to him, the mistaken votes were actually in the first and sixth place slots, not the first and fifth. If Snider had been given that sixth place vote, it wouldn't have given him the win outright. It would have resulted in a tie between him and Campanella. And unlike the original version of the story, where the fifth place spot was simply left blank, Posnanski claims the sixth place slot wasn't discarded at all. Instead, all the other players on the ballot were bumped up one spot and pitcher Jack Meyer was added in at the 10th place position. Even though Snider didn't take home the MVP award, his dominance that year didn't go unnoticed. He was named the Sporting News National League Player of the Year and also won the Sid Mercer Award, given by the New York chapter of the BBWA to the best player in the league. So while the MVP may have slipped through his fingers, possibly due to a clerical error, there was no doubt among fans and writers alike that Snider was one of the best players in baseball that season. Now, speaking of just how great his career truly was, it's no surprise he earned such immense love and support from fans. Snider's baseball journey started early, and it didn't take long for people to notice his talent. Back in the early 1940s, one of Branch Rickey's scouts spotted him and saw something special. Before he even had a chance to think about a different career path, he was signed to a professional baseball contract right out of high school in 1943. Like most young players, Snider had to work his way up through the minor leagues before getting a real shot at the big time. In 1944, he got a brief taste of higher-level baseball when he played for the Montreal Royals, the Brooklyn Dodgers' top farm team in the International League. It wasn't much, he only had 2 at-bats, but it was a sign that the organization saw promise in him. That same year, he spent more time playing for the Newport News Dodgers in the Piedmont League, getting more experience and sharpening his skills. But just as his baseball career was starting to pick up speed, World War II changed everything. Like so many young men of his generation, Snider put baseball on hold and joined the U.S. Navy in 1945. He spent over a year serving his country before finally returning to the game he loved in 1946. When he got back, he jumped right back into minor league baseball, playing for the Fort Worth Cats that season. By 1947, he had moved up again. Snider's road to baseball. Greatness really took off in 1947 when he earned a tryout with the Brooklyn Dodgers during spring training. That was the year Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color barrier, and Snider was right there in the mix, getting his first taste of the major leagues. He made his debut on April 17th in just the second game of the season and wasted no time making an impact, smacking a single in his first at-bat. Over the next few months, he played in 39 more games and became friends with Robinson before being sent back down to the minor leagues with the St. Paul team in early July. But that wasn't the end of his season. Snider returned to Brooklyn just in time for the 1947 World Series against the Yankees, getting his first taste of postseason baseball. The following year, after another strong showing in spring training, he started the season with the Montreal Royals. Snider was on fire in the minors, hitting 327, and by August the Dodgers had seen enough. They called him back up to the big leagues. That time, he stayed longer, playing in 53 games and showing flashes of the star he would soon become. By 1949, Snider had officially arrived. He became a full-time major leaguer and quickly established himself as a key player in Brooklyn's powerful lineup. That season, he blasted 23 home runs, drove in 92 runs, and helped lead the Dodgers to yet another World Series. His batting average also took a big leap, improving from .244 to .292. With a little more experience under his belt, Snider became a major force in a Dodgers lineup packed with talent. He played alongside legends like Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella, Pee Wee Reese, Gil Hodges, and Carl Furillo. This was a powerhouse team, and Snider was right in the middle of it. Fans loved him, and he earned a nickname that stuck. He became the Duke of Flatbush. By 1950, Snider was one of the league's best hitters. That year, he batted 321 and led the National League in both hits and total bases. He also earned his first All-Star selection, a sign that he was officially among baseball's elite. But success didn't always come easy. In 1951, his batting average dipped to .277, and that happened to be the year the Dodgers suffered one of the most heartbreaking collapses in baseball history. They had a 13-game lead in August, only to watch the New York Giants storm back and force a tie at the top of the standings. That led to a 3-game playoff, and in the final game, Bobby Thompson hit his legendary shot heard round the world, a walk-off home run that crushed the Dodgers and sent the Giants to the World Series instead. Snider took a lot of heat from fans and the media after that season. He was so frustrated that he actually went to Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley and told him he couldn't handle the pressure anymore. He even asked to be traded, but O'Malley didn't budge, and Snider stayed in Brooklyn. That turned out to be the right call, because over the next several years, he became one of the most dominant hitters in baseball. From 1953 to 1957, Snider was on another level. He hit 40 or more home runs in 5 straight seasons, something few players in history have ever done. During that stretch, he averaged 42 home runs, 124 runs batted in, 123 runs scored, and a .320 batting average. He led the National League in home runs, RBI, and runs scored in different seasons, and was a driving force behind the Dodgers' success. Brooklyn made it to the World Series 6 times during Snider's career, always facing the Yankees except for their final championship run in '59 against the Chicago White Sox. The highlight of Snider's career came in 1955 when the Dodgers finally broke through and won their first ever World Series, beating the Yankees in 7 games. That was the moment Brooklyn fans had been waiting for, and Snider was a huge part of it. Then, in 1959, even though his numbers were starting to decline, he helped the team win another championship, this time in Los Angeles. That move to LA in 1958 was tough on Snider. His power numbers dropped, partly because of an aching knee and partly because of the massive dimensions of the LA Coliseum, where the right field fence was a daunting 440 feet away. He managed just 15 home runs that season, a far cry from his usual numbers. But in 1959, he had one last great year, bouncing back to hit .308 with 23 home runs and 88 RB, while splitting time in the outfield with Don Demeter and rookie Ron Fairley. By the early 1960s, injuries and age had started to slow him down, and Snider was no longer an everyday player, but he still had a deep love for the game and was a respected veteran presence in the clubhouse. In 1962, as the Dodgers found themselves locked in a tense battle for the National League pennant with their longtime rivals, the San Francisco Giants, Snider, and third base coach Leo Durocher reportedly urged manager Walter Alston to bring in star pitcher Don Drysdale to close out the deciding playoff game. Instead, Alston went with Stan Williams to relieve a tiring Eddie Roebuck, and the decision backfired. The Dodgers blew a 4-2 lead in the 9th inning, losing 6-4 as the Giants staged a dramatic comeback to win the pennant. That heartbreaking loss marked the end of an era for Snider. Shortly after, the Dodgers sold him to the New York Mets. When the news broke, it hit his teammates hard, especially Drysdale, who had been Snider's longtime roommate. Some say Drysdale even broke down in tears when he heard that Snider was leaving. It was the end of his time in Dodger blue, but Snider's legacy was already set in stone. When Duke Snider joined the Mets in 1963, he ran into a small problem. His familiar number 4 was already taken by Charlie Neal. So for the first half of the season, he wore number 11. But as soon as Neal was traded, Snider got his beloved 4 back. That season, Snider hit 2 big milestones. On April 16th, he picked up his 2,000th career hit, a single off Jim Maloney of the Reds. Then on June 14th, he crushed his 400th home run, also against Cincinnati. He even made one last All-Star appearance, his 8th overall, though his final at-bat ended in a strikeout. By season's end, he had hit 243 with 14 home runs and 45 RBIs. Wanting one last shot at a championship, he asked to be traded. In 1964, the Mets sold him to the San Francisco Giants. He played just 91 games, hitting 210 with 4 home runs before retiring. Snider walked away from baseball with a 295 lifetime average, 407 homers, and a legacy as one of the game's all-time greats. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching. Fergie Jenkins was caught up in a shocking crime at Toronto Airport when authorities found him with cocaine, marijuana, and hashish. The surprising discovery shook the sports world as the baseball legend's dark crimes finally came to light. Fans were stunned. How could a Hall of Famer be caught up in something like this? His career took a shocking turn when he was stopped for a customs search in Toronto. Authorities found him carrying 3.0 grams of cocaine, 2.2 grams of hashish, and 1.75 grams of marijuana. A Hall of Famer caught with drugs? It was almost unthinkable. Major League Baseball wasted no time in responding. On September 8th, Commissioner Bowie Kuhn made a bold move, suspending Jenkins indefinitely. For many, it seemed like his career was over. An indefinite suspension from the league was no small punishment, especially for a player of his stature. Fans, teammates, and analysts all wondered if this would be the final chapter in Jenkins' otherwise stellar career. But then, something unprecedented happened. Just 2 weeks after the suspension was handed down, an independent arbiter, Raymond Getz, reviewed the case. In a stunning decision, he overturned the suspension and reinstated Jenkins. It was almost unheard of. Such a quick reversal of an MLB commissioner's ruling was rare, to say the least. But just like that, Jenkins was back in the league, returning to the game as if nothing had happened. Then came the trial. Many expected serious consequences, but in yet another surprising twist, the judge granted Jenkins an absolute discharge. The reasoning? A lack of key evidence. With that ruling, any legal consequences faded away, and Jenkins walked free without further punishment. As for Major League Baseball, they chose not to take any further action. Despite the controversy, Jenkins remained active in the league, continuing to play until his retirement after the 1983 season. What could have been a career-ending scandal ultimately became just a dramatic chapter in his long baseball journey. If there's one thing that's undeniable, it's that his baseball journey was nothing but legendary. His journey to becoming one of baseball's greatest pitchers began in 1962 when Philadelphia Phillies scout Tony Lucadelo saw something special in the young right-hander. At the time, Ferguson Jenkins was just another talented prospect with a strong arm and a dream. He had shown promise on the mound, but few could have predicted the incredible career that lay ahead of him. Jenkins grew up in Canada, where he first developed his love for baseball. He was a natural athlete, excelling in multiple sports before focusing on pitching. His ability to throw with power and accuracy quickly set him apart from other young players. When Lucadelo watched him play, he knew Jenkins had the potential to become something special. It wasn't long before the Phillies made the decision to sign him. Joining the Phillies organization was just the beginning of his journey. In the minor leagues, he worked hard to improve his skills and refine his pitching. He studied the game closely, learning from experienced coaches and teammates. His dedication and determination soon paid off as he began to rise through the ranks. With each passing season, he gained more confidence and continued to develop into a dominant pitcher. Although he started as just another prospect, Jenkins would go on to achieve greatness. Over the years, he became known for his consistency, durability, and ability to control the game. By 1965, at just 22 years old, Jenkins got his first taste of the big leagues. The Phillies used him as a relief pitcher, giving him a chance to prove himself against major league hitters. But things didn't quite take off in Philadelphia. The team saw potential in him, but they didn't give him a real shot to prove himself. He showed flashes of talent, but opportunities were limited, and he struggled to find his place. Despite his hard work, the Phillies seemed unsure about his future with the team. He continued to develop his skills, but without a real chance to pitch regularly, he couldn't fully showcase what he was capable of. It was clear that he needed a fresh start, and that opportunity would soon come. That opportunity arrived in 1966 when the Phillies made a trade that would change Jenkins' career forever. He was sent to the Chicago Cubs in a deal that, at the time, didn't seem like a major move. Along with Jenkins, outfielder Adolfo Phillips and first baseman John Herrnstein were also included in the trade. In return, the Phillies received two veteran pitchers, Larry Jackson and Bob Boole. Many believed Philadelphia was getting the better end of the deal since Jackson and Boole had proven experience. However, as time passed, the trade became known as one of the most lopsided deals in baseball history. While Jackson and Boole had solid careers, they were nearing the end of their playing days. Meanwhile, Jenkins was just getting started. He quickly became one of the best pitchers in the game, proving that the Cubs had made an incredible steal. What seemed like an ordinary trade at the time turned out to be a franchise-altering move for Chicago. Jenkins thrived with the Cubs, seizing the opportunity that had been missing in Philadelphia. He developed into an elite pitcher, showing remarkable control, power, and consistency on the mound. Year after year, he delivered outstanding performances, making the Phillies regret their decision. Once he arrived in Chicago, Jenkins wasted no time making an impact. The Cubs gave him a chance to start, and he ran with it. In 1967, his first full season as a starting pitcher, he put the baseball world on notice. He racked up 20 wins, posted an impressive 2.80 ERA, and struck out an incredible 236 batters. His dominance on the mound was undeniable, and he quickly became one of the most feared pitchers in the National League. His performance was so good that he finished tied for second in the Cy Young Award voting, just behind San Francisco Giants pitcher Mike McCormick. On top of that, he earned his first trip to the All-Star game, cementing his status as one of the game's rising stars. As great as 1967 was for Jenkins, 1968 was even better. He proved that his success wasn't a fluke by winning another 20 games, lowering his ERA to an impressive 2.63 and increasing his strikeout total to a staggering 260. At this point, there was no doubt Fergie Jenkins was one of the best pitchers in baseball. What made his accomplishments even more remarkable was the fact that he did it all while pitching at Wrigley Field, a notorious hitter's ballpark where home runs seemed to fly out with ease. But Jenkins wasn't intimidated by the challenge. He embraced it, proving that great pitching could thrive even in the toughest environments. To add to the frustration of opposing hitters, Jenkins had an almost cruel ability to keep his team in games, even when they couldn't provide him with much support. In 1968 alone, he lost 5 games by a score of 1-0. 5 times Ferguson Jenkins pitched well enough to win, only to see his team struggle at the plate. He delivered strong performances, striking out batters and keeping the game close. But too often, the offense couldn't give him the runs he needed. It was frustrating, but Jenkins never let it affect him. He didn't make excuses or blame his teammates. Instead, he stayed focused, determined to do his job every time he stepped on the mound. No matter the outcome, he kept taking the ball and giving his team a chance to win. He understood that a pitcher's job wasn't just about personal victories, it was about helping the team compete. Whether he got the win or not, he always gave his best effort. His consistency, durability, and calm demeanor set him apart from other pitchers. He never let bad luck or tough losses shake his confidence, and that mental toughness became one of his greatest strengths. By 1971, he had already established himself as one of the best pitchers in baseball, but that season, he took things to a whole new level. It was, without a doubt, the best year of his career, a season filled with dominance, durability, and historic achievements. It all started on April 6, 1971, when Jenkins took the mound for the Cubs' opening day game against the St. Louis Cardinals at Wrigley Field. The pressure was on, but Jenkins was always the kind of pitcher who thrived in big moments. He delivered an absolute gem, pitching a complete game and keeping the Cardinals' offense in check for 10 innings. The Cubs, locked in a tense battle, finally broke through in the final inning when Billy Williams crushed a dramatic home run to seal a 2-1 victory. It was the perfect way to start what would turn out to be an unforgettable season. Jenkins didn't just dominate early in the season, he kept rolling all year long. One of his most impressive performances came on September 1st, when he faced the Montreal Expos. Not only did he go the distance once again, throwing yet another complete game, but he also helped his own cause in a way few pitchers could. That day, Jenkins wasn't just dealing on the mound, he was crushing the ball at the plate, launching 2 home runs to power the Cubs to a 5-2 victory. Pitchers weren't supposed to be that good with a bat, but Jenkins had a way of breaking the mold. July was an especially dominant month for him. He was so good that he was named National League Player of the Month, the only time in his career he would receive that honor. During that stretch, he was nearly untouchable, posting a 6-1 record with a microscopic 2.14 ERA while racking up 49 strikeouts. It was clear to everyone watching, Jenkins wasn't just having a great season. He was putting together one of the greatest pitching campaigns of his era. By the time the regular season wrapped up, his numbers were nothing short of astonishing. Jenkins made 39 starts that year. And in an era where complete games were becoming less common, he finished what he started an incredible 30 times. That meant nearly every time he took the mound, the Cubs didn't need to rely on their bullpen. Jenkins was his own closer. Of those 39 starts, he received a decision in 37 of them, finishing with a stellar 24-13 record. But what really set him apart was his control. Over 325 innings, he walked only 37 batters, an absurdly low number compared to his towering total of 263 strikeouts. Few pitchers in history have ever combined that level of power and precision the way Jenkins did in 1971. His dominance earned him a spot in the All-Star game, and when the season ended, he finished 7th in MVP voting. But Jenkins wasn't just a force on the mound. He was making noise with his bat, too. In just 115 at-bats that season, he blasted 6 home runs and drove in 20 runs, posting an impressive .478 slugging percentage. His ability to contribute both as a pitcher and a hitter made him one of the most complete players in the game. Then came the crowning achievement, the National League's Cy Young Award. Jenkins had been in the conversation for years, but in 1971, there was no denying him. He became the first Cubs pitcher and the first Canadian ever to win the prestigious award, earning 17 of 24 first-place votes. Some argued that New York Mets ace Tom Seaver had better numbers in certain categories, but there was a major difference between the two. Seaver pitched in Shea Stadium, a ballpark known for being extremely pitcher-friendly. Jenkins, on the other hand, dominated while pitching in Wrigley Field, a stadium famous for favoring hitters. The fact that he was able to put up such incredible numbers in those conditions only made his accomplishments even more impressive. By the time 1972 rolled around, he had already solidified himself as one of baseball's most dominant and consistent pitchers. That year, he did something truly remarkable. He notched his 6th straight season with 20 or more wins. That kind of consistency was almost unheard of, and it was a testament to just how reliable, durable, and flat-out talented he was. Every time Jenkins took the mound, his team knew they had a great chance to win. He wasn't just good, he was a workhorse, a pitcher who could go deep into games, keep his team in it, and give them a real shot at victory. But even the best players hit rough patches, and by the middle of the 1973 season, something seemed off with Jenkins. He started to feel burnt out, and for the first time in his career, he openly admitted that he just didn't feel like playing baseball anymore. He stuck it out for the rest of the season, but his performance reflected how he was feeling. His record dropped to 14-16, a far cry from the dominance he had displayed in previous years. It was clear that something needed to change. That change came on October 25, 1973, when the Cubs made a big move and traded Jenkins to the Texas Rangers in exchange for Bill Madlock and Vic Harris. It was the end of an era in Chicago, but for Jenkins, it was a fresh start. Texas manager Billy Martin couldn't have been happier about the deal. He saw Jenkins for what he truly was, a winner. Martin praised his new pitcher, calling him a workhorse, someone who could carry the team on his back. And Jenkins wasted no time proving his new manager right. In 1974, Jenkins put together one of the best seasons of his career, silencing any doubts about whether he still had it. Not only did he dominate on the mound, but he also set a personal best with 25 wins, a record that still stands as the most in a single season for a Texas Rangers pitcher. He was in Cy Young Award conversations once again, finishing as the runner-up in an incredibly close race behind Catfish Hunter. The voting was so tight that even though Hunter took home the Cy Young, Jenkins actually finished ahead of him in the MVP race, placing 5th, the highest MVP ranking of his career. That season, he was also named the American League Comeback Player of the Year by the Sporting News, proving that even after a tough year, he could bounce back stronger than ever. Jenkins continued to add to his legacy in the years that followed. On May 23, 1980, he reached another major milestone, securing his 250th career win in a game against the Oakland Athletics. It was another historic moment for a pitcher whose career had been defined by excellence. But just when it seemed like everything was going smoothly, controversy struck. Later that year, during a routine customs search in Toronto, Jenkins was found in possession of 3.0 grams of cocaine, 2.2 grams of hashish, and 1.75 grams of marijuana. Jenkins, a respected veteran and future Hall of Famer, suddenly found himself at the center of a scandal. But in a move that caught many by surprise, Jenkins' suspension lasted only 2 weeks. In an unprecedented decision, independent arbiter Raymond Goetz reviewed the case and overturned the suspension, allowing Jenkins to return to the league. It was a rare moment in baseball history. Players simply didn't get their suspensions lifted that quickly, especially in cases involving drug-related charges. Eventually, when the case went to trial, the judge ruled in Jenkins' favor, granting him an absolute discharge due to a lack of sufficient evidence. With that, Jenkins was free to continue his career without any further punishment from Major League Baseball. Even though he was able to keep playing, the incident wasn't without consequences. Many believe that it played a major role in delaying his induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Despite his incredible career numbers and long list of accomplishments, it took longer than expected for him to finally receive baseball's highest honor. Jenkins played in the majors until 1983, closing the book on an extraordinary career that spanned nearly 2 decades. But even after stepping away from Major League Baseball, he wasn't done with the game he loved. Instead of retiring completely, he took his talents back home to Canada, joining the London Majors, a minor league team in Ontario's Intercounty Baseball League. He spent 2 seasons pitching there, proving that even as his MLB days were behind him, he still had plenty of passion left for the sport. He wasn't just a great baseball player, he was a legend, and the world made sure to recognize him for it. Over the years, he racked up an incredible list of honors, becoming one of the most celebrated athletes in Canadian history. His talent, work ethic, and impact on the game earned him recognition like few others before or after him. Whether it was awards, Hall of Fame inductions, or even a statue in his honor, Jenkins' legacy was cemented in ways that most athletes can only dream of. One of his earliest major honors came in 1974, when he made history as the first baseball player to win the prestigious Lou Marsh Trophy. This award, given annually to Canada's top athlete, was a huge deal. It wasn't just about baseball, but about recognizing the best of the best across all sports. Jenkins stood tall as the most outstanding Canadian athlete that year, proving that his dominance on the mound was impossible to ignore. But that was far from the only time his home country acknowledged his greatness. The Canadian press named him Male Athlete of the Year not once, not twice, but 4 times. First in 1967, then again in 1968, 1971, and 1974. That kind of repeated recognition showed just how consistently dominant he was, year after year. As his career continued, so did the honors. In 1987, Jenkins received one of Canada's highest athletic distinctions when he was awarded the Order of Sport, marking his official induction into Canada's Sports Hall of Fame. That same year, he was also inducted into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, solidifying his status as one of the greatest baseball players the country had ever produced. But perhaps his biggest and most prestigious honor came in 1991, when he became the first Canadian ever elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. It was the ultimate recognition for a lifetime of excellence on the field. Canada was so proud of him that when the 1991 Major League Baseball All-Star Game was held in Toronto, the entire event was dedicated to Jenkins. As part of the celebration, he had the honor of throwing out the ceremonial first pitch, a fitting tribute to a player who had given so much to the game. But the accolades didn't stop there. In 1995, he was inducted into the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame, further cementing his legacy within his home province. Then in 2001, he received yet another incredible honor. His name was added to Canada's Walk of Fame, an exclusive recognition typically reserved for the country's biggest cultural icons. It was a testament to how much Jenkins meant to Canada, not just as an athlete, but as a national figure. Even after his playing days were over, Jenkins continued to be involved in baseball. In 2003, he was appointed the commissioner of the Canadian Baseball League, an attempt to bring professional baseball back to Canada. Unfortunately, the league folded after just 1 season, but it still left behind one strange mystery. The league's championship trophy, known as the Jenkins Cup, vanished when the league shut down, and to this day, it has never been found. In 2004, Jenkins was honored by yet another team when the Texas Rangers inducted him into their Hall of Fame, recognizing his incredible contributions to the franchise. Then in 2011, the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame created a special award in his honor, the Ferguson Jenkins Heritage Award. This award was designed to recognize those unforgettable moments in sports history, those one-of-a-kind achievements that leave a lasting mark on the game. It was a fitting tribute to a player who had so many of those moments himself. But one of the most significant honors of Jenkins' life actually took decades to finally happen. Back on December 17, 1979, he was named a member of the Order of Canada, a prestigious recognition for being Canada's best-known Major League Baseball player. However, for reasons unknown, his official investiture into the order didn't actually take place until May 4, 2007, over 27 years later. The long delay didn't take away from the significance of the moment, though, and when it finally happened, it was officiated by Governor General Michel Jean, making it all the more special. Jenkins' impact on the game was so profound that his former team, the Chicago Cubs, decided to make sure his name would live on forever in their franchise history. On May 3, 2009, they retired jersey number 31 in honor of both Jenkins and fellow Cubs pitching legend Greg Maddux. It was an incredible honor, as very few players ever have their numbers retired. When they do, it means they truly left a lasting impact on the team and its fans. Then in 2010, another unique tribute came Jenkins' way. Canada Post announced that he would be honored with his very own postage stamp. The stamp, which was officially released on February 1, 2011, was part of a special series commemorating Black History Month. It was a remarkable recognition of not only Jenkins' contributions to baseball, but also his role as a trailblazer for Black athletes in Canada. And finally, one of the most touching and lasting tributes to Jenkins' career came on May 20th, 2022, when he was honored with a statue outside Wrigley Field, home of the Chicago Cubs. The statue immortalized him in bronze, ensuring that future generations of baseball fans would always remember the impact he had on the game. Standing alongside the statues of other Cubs greats, Jenkins' presence outside Wrigley was a reminder of his incredible legacy. From winning awards to being enshrined in Hall of Fames, from having his jersey retired to receiving a postage stamp in his honor, and finally to having a statue built in his likeness, Fergie Jenkins' legacy was celebrated in ways that very few athletes ever experience. His contributions to baseball and to Canadian sports history were undeniable. That's a wrap for today's video. If you had a great time watching, be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Great player, and that was something that I enjoyed watching and wanted to be a part of.
And in fact, your nickname in football was?
Little Juice. Everyone on campus.
Tim Raines was one of baseball's all-time great leadoff hitters and base stealers. Raines was a 7-time All-Star, won a batting title in 1986, and retired as one of only a few players to steal over 800 bases. Despite battling addiction and lupus, he rose like a legend and got induction in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Before we proceed, please take a moment and subscribe to the channel. In 1982, Raines' performance took a noticeable dip, with his batting average falling to .277 and his on-base percentage to .353, a contrast to his usual high standards at the plate. But behind the stats was a darker struggle that had begun affecting his life off the field, as well as his game on it. That season, Raines was in the grip of a serious cocaine addiction, spending up to $40,000 on the drug. To keep it hidden from teammates and coaches, he developed a unique, risky routine, carrying the drug in his back pocket rather than leaving it in his locker. This habit was so ingrained that he became known for sliding headfirst to protect his stash. The addiction affected him deeply, leading him to use cocaine before games, in his car, after games, and on some occasions, even between innings in the clubhouse. This high-stakes lifestyle quickly spun out of control, prompting Raines to make the difficult decision to enter a treatment program at the end of the season. Facing his struggles head-on, Raines was determined to turn his life around, not just for his career, but for his health and future. In September 1985, Raines testified at the Pittsburgh drug trials, a high-profile case that brought to light the widespread drug issues within baseball. His testimony and the courage it took to come forward became a pivotal moment in his journey to recovery and redemption. It also underscored his commitment to be a positive influence in the sport and a role model for younger players, turning his story of struggle into one of resilience and triumph. His openness about his past and dedication to self-improvement would ultimately help reshape his legacy as one of baseball's most respected figures. In January 1999, Raines signed as a free agent with the Oakland Athletics, hoping to bring his experience and skill to yet another team. But just months into the season, Raines faced an unexpected and life-altering health scare. On July 23rd, after noticing concerning symptoms, he underwent a kidney biopsy that would reveal he had lupus, an autoimmune disease that causes the immune system to attack healthy tissues. For a player known for his resilience and speed on the field, the diagnosis was a shocking turn, marking the start of a new kind of battle. Raines, who had already overcome significant challenges throughout his career, was suddenly thrust into an entirely different world of uncertainty. Lupus is a chronic illness that can affect many parts of the body, from the kidneys to the joints, and the treatment journey can be physically and emotionally grueling. Rather than returning to the lineup, he had to focus on aggressive treatments, adjusting to a new normal that required rest and careful monitoring of his health. The diagnosis sidelined him for the remainder of the season, pushing him to reassess his priorities and lean into his support system. As he moved through treatments and began to recover, Raines' journey with lupus became part of his legacy, inspiring others facing health battles to keep moving forward. His comeback to baseball in later seasons served as a testament to his perseverance and his unbreakable spirit, showing that his fight extended far beyond the field. Tim Raines was born on September 16, 1959, in Sanford, Florida. Two of his brothers, Levi and Ned III, also finding their way into minor league baseball, the family had sports woven into their fabric. At Seminole High School, Raines was a remarkable athlete, excelling in nearly every sport he tried. On the baseball field, he was a force to be reckoned with, showing a boldness that would become his trademark. Raines had the rare skill and guts to steal home, a feat he accomplished an incredible 10 times during high school. Coaches, teammates, and fans could already see he had that unique mix of speed and baseball instincts. But Raines' talents weren't limited to the diamond. On the football field, he was a dynamic running back, rushing for over 1,000 yards in just 8 games, a stat that quickly earned him a reputation among scouts. Meanwhile, in track and field, he set 2 school records, demonstrating his explosive athletic ability in yet another arena. Those records would stand for years, a testament to just how rare his athletic gifts were. With all of this talent, Raines drew the attention of colleges across the country, receiving more than 100 scholarship offers to play football. Universities everywhere were eager to sign him, believing he could become a major football star. But despite the allure of the gridiron, Raines' heart was set on baseball, the sport he loved most. His passion, combined with his unmatched speed and instincts, set him on the path to becoming one of baseball's most exciting leadoff hitters and base stealers. His choice to pursue baseball over football was, as we now know, a game changer for the sport and the start of an incredible career that would leave an enduring legacy. When he was asked later why he chose baseball over football, he answered, "In football, I was a running back, so in the NFL, my career would have probably lasted 6 or 7 years. But in baseball, I ended up playing for 23 years. Baseball lets you stick around a lot longer, so when you look at it that way, it was the better choice." The Montreal Expos picked Tim Raines in the 5th round of the 1977 MLB draft, giving the young speedster his first real shot at the big leagues. After debuting as a pinch runner in just 6 games in 1979, Raines tried his hand at second base in 1980, but he quickly made the switch to the outfield, where his explosive speed and fearlessness on the base paths made him an instant fan favorite. Expos fans loved his aggressive approach. Every time he took off for a second, you could feel the excitement in the air. By 1981, Raines was in full stride. In a season cut short by a player's strike, he hit an impressive .304 and absolutely tore it up on the base paths, stealing 71 bases, setting a rookie record that smashed Gene Richards' previous mark of 56 set in 1977. Even more impressive, Raines was practically untouchable when he went for a steal. He started his career with 27 successful stolen bases in a row, setting a major league record at the time for consecutive steals without getting caught. Raines' remarkable year didn't go unnoticed. and he was neck and neck in the race for the National League's Rookie of the Year award. Though he finished as the runner-up to Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Fernando Valenzuela, Rain's rookie season was unforgettable. It marked the beginning of a career defined by thrilling base running, a contagious energy on the field, and a fearless approach that kept fans on the edge of their seats for years to come. After a drug-prone 1982 season, he bounced back strongly in 1983. Rains hit his stride, stealing a career-high 90 bases, second only in Expos history. His lightning speed and keen eye for the game helped him set a franchise record by scoring 133 runs that season. Rains wasn't just fast, he was consistent and electrifying, earning the title of Expos Player of the Year in 1983, 1985, and 1986. Over those years, he stole at least 70 bases each season, and in 1986, he reached a career-high batting average of 334, snagging the National League Batting Championship. Even though he never won a Gold Glove award, Rains was a top-tier defender, leading the National League in assists with 21 in 1983. He even tied for the league lead in double plays turned by an outfielder in 1985. And at the plate, he became a force with a career-high slugging percentage of 429 by 1987, solidifying his reputation as one of the league's most versatile players. However, in late 1986, Rains faced unexpected challenges when he became a free agent. Despite leading the league in many categories, he found himself without any serious offers, a result of a period when MLB owners were colluding to suppress player salaries. For months, he was effectively sidelined. Finally, on May 1st, 1987, the Expos re-signed Rains, granting him a 3-year deal worth $5 million plus a signing bonus of $900,000. Rains made his comeback with flair. In his first game back on May 2nd, facing the Mets with zero spring training or preseason preparation, he hit the very first pitch he saw for a triple off the right field wall. By the end of the game, he had 4 hits and 5 at-bats, 3 runs scored, a walk, a stolen base, and a game-winning grand slam in the 10th inning, a spectacular return that fans wouldn't forget. Despite missing all of April, Rains led the Expos in runs, walks, times on base, and stolen bases, along with batting average, on-base percentage, and slugging percentage. His star power continued in the All-Star game, where he was named MVP after delivering a game-winning triple in the 13th inning. Years later, Rains received over $865,000 in retroactive damages from the MLB collusion cases, but it was clear that no setback could keep him from making his mark on the game. On December 20th, 1990, Rains made a bold move when the Montreal Expos traded him to the Chicago White Sox. Though he was leaving the team that had helped him grow into a baseball superstar, Rains was candid about his decision to leave. He wanted a shot at the World Series, and he didn't feel the Expos were in a position to make that happen. Rains adapted quickly to the American League in 1991, posting a .268 batting average with a strong .359 on-base percentage. He was second on the White Sox in runs scored that year, helping his new team to a solid second-place finish in the AL West. In 1992, his average climbed to .294 with a 380 OBP, proving he was just as capable in the AL as he'd been in Montreal. By 1993, Rains was hitting his stride with Chicago, but the season wasn't without setbacks. A torn ligament in his thumb, sustained in typical Rains fashion while stealing a base, kept him out for nearly 6 weeks during April and May. Yet he returned with determination and ended the season batting .306 with 16 home runs, adding power to his already strong performance on the field. His efforts helped propel the White Sox to clinch the AL West title, getting Rains closer to his dream of a World Series. In the American League Championship Series against the Toronto Blue Jays, Rains stepped up his game even more, batting an impressive .444 and scoring 5 runs over the series. Despite his heroics, the White Sox couldn't overcome the Jays, and Chicago's postseason run ended there. On December 28, 1995, Rains' journey took him to the New York Yankees when the White Sox traded him for future considerations. Moving to New York put Rains in the position he dreamed of for years, a shot at the World Series with a team built to win. Rains brought his usual energy and work ethic, though injuries limited his time on the field. But even when he wasn't in the lineup, Rains became known for bringing a relaxed, fun atmosphere to the Yankees clubhouse, which helped loosen things up in a high-pressure environment. In 1996, his first season with the Yankees, Rains achieved his long-awaited dream, winning his first World Series ring. 2 years later, in 1998, he added a second ring to his collection as the Yankees dominated the league once again. That season was special for another reason, too. On On June 10th, Raines stole his 800th base, hitting a milestone few players ever reach. Though he spent just a few seasons with New York, Raines' impact was felt on and off the field, adding a final triumphant chapter to an incredible career. After his battle with lupus in February 2000, Raines signed with the Yankees as a free agent. But his return to New York was brief. He was released in March before the season began. Later that year, however, the Montreal Expos came calling, and Raines rejoined the team where he'd made his name. For Expos fans, it was like welcoming home a hero, and they showed it. At the home opener in 2001, Raines received a standing ovation so thunderous that he described it as the longest and loudest of his entire career. It even rattled the pitcher, who walked him on 4 straight pitches. Limited to part-time play, Raines still batted an impressive .308 with a .433 on-base percentage, showing he hadn't lost his touch. That same year, he was inducted into the Expos Hall of Fame, a well-deserved honor for a franchise legend. Raines faced a few health challenges, too. In May, he underwent surgery on his left shoulder and was assigned to the Expos AAA team, the Ottawa Lynx, to rehab. Then on August 21st, Raines found himself in a once-in-a-lifetime moment. He and his son, Tim Raines Jr., became the first father-son duo to play against each other in a professional baseball game when Ottawa faced the Rochester Red Wings. The two had faced off in spring training, but this official game was a milestone that brought father and son face-to-face on the field. The Expos made another gesture to honor Raines, trading him to the Baltimore Orioles so he could play alongside his son in the majors. On October 4th, Raines Jr. took center field, while Raines Sr. held down left field for Baltimore. They became the second father-son duo to play for the same MLB team, following in the footsteps of Ken Griffey Sr. and Jr. After hanging up his cleats, Tim Raines jumped right into coaching, starting in 2003 as the manager of the Class A Advanced Brevard County Manatees, an affiliate of the Expos. His journey took a significant turn in 2004 when he was promoted to the Major League team, and he was there for the Expos' final games in Montreal, closing a chapter in baseball history that he had been a part of for so long. In November 2004, Raines joined the Chicago White Sox as a coach, and what a ride it was. During the memorable 2005 season, when the White Sox clinched the World Series championship, Raines served as the first base coach, contributing to a team that would go down in history. The following year, he took on the role of bench coach, further solidifying his place in the game. Raines' coaching journey continued as he moved on to the minor league. In 2007, he became the hitting coach for the Harrisburg Senators. In 2009, he signed a 2-year contract to manage the Newark Bears in the Atlantic League. After the 2010 season, the Bears transitioned to the Canadian American Association of Professional Baseball, and the team was excited to announce that Raines would return to manage in 2011. In 2012, Raines took on a new challenge as an assistant coach and director of player development for the Bears, where he could help shape players' careers both on and off the field. His expertise didn't go unnoticed, and in 2013, the Toronto Blue Jays brought him on board as a minor league base running and outfield coach. Raines had an impressive run as a player, earning a spot as a National League All-Star for 7 consecutive seasons from 1981 to 1987. He was even named the most valuable player of the 1987 All-Star Game, showcasing his exceptional talent on the big stage. In 1981, Raines was honored as the National League Rookie of the Year by the Sporting News. He finished in the top 10 for the NL MVP award 3 times and snagged a Silver Slugger award in 1986 when he led the league in both batting average and on-base percentage. His legacy continued with his induction into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in 2013 and the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 2017, where his plaque proudly displays him in an Expos cap. To honor his contributions, Seminole High School renamed their baseball complex Tim Raines Athletic Park and retired his number 22. In 2019, Raines received a ceremonial key to the city of Sanford, and the Sanford Historical Museum dedicated an exhibit filled with memorabilia from his incredible career. Well, that brings us to the end of today's video. Make sure to subscribe to Baseball Icon so that you never miss an update.
Players' reactions?
A lot of those guys saw him play. I think that they had an immediate.
Kevin Brown was a gifted MLB pitcher, but his career was overshadowed by injuries and a fiery temper. Rumors of steroid use only added fuel to the fire, ruining what could have been an incredible legacy. Before we proceed, please subscribe to the channel. Brown's name came up in the Mitchell report, which linked him and several other Los Angeles Dodgers to steroid use. The report detailed allegations from Kirk Radomski, who claimed he sold Brown human growth hormone and decadurabolin over a period of 2 or 3 years, starting sometime around 2000 or 2001. According to Radomski, Paul Lo Duca, another MLB player, was the one who introduced him to Brown. To back up these claims, Radomski provided an express mail receipt dated June 7, 2004, which was addressed to Brown. The report also included notes from a 2003 meeting among Dodgers executives, where they questioned the medication Brown was using. One note from that meeting even had a telling remark: steroids speculated by GM. Despite all of this, Brown refused to meet with the Mitchell investigators. Bill Plaschke, a respected sports writer, added even more to the story. By 2003, he said it was obvious to him and to Dodgers management that Brown was probably using steroids. Plaschke recalled how they would even talk about it from the dugout while watching Brown's bulging, tense body during batting practice. However, since the players wouldn't admit to anything, there wasn't much he could write at the time. Brown was known as one of the most explosive pitchers in baseball, with a temper that was truly something else. Sure, most players lose it at some point, maybe smashing a water cooler or breaking a light fixture in frustration. But Brown took things to a whole new level. His outbursts were extreme and often self-destructive. There was one time he tried to kick his foot through a door window, not just once, but multiple times, coming dangerously close to shredding his Achilles heel in the process. On another occasion, he slammed a metal plate from the bottom of a laundry basket right over his own head. And then there was the infamous incident at Kauffman Stadium, where he smashed a window in the visiting clubhouse, right between the training room and the whirlpool room. Brown's tantrums were as unpredictable as his fastball and just as hard to handle. Brown's infamous temper tantrums might have actually been symptoms of roid rage. Starting in the mid-1980s, the media began linking roid rage to anabolic steroid use, reporting it as a potential side effect. A 2008 study, based on a representative sample of young adult males in the U.S., did find a link between both lifetime and past-year AOS use and involvement in violent behavior. His temper issues continued even after he quit baseball. Since his retirement, Brown has found himself in a few troubling incidents involving handguns. Back in August 2006, a neighbor accused Brown of pulling a gun during an argument over something as small as yard debris. While no charges were filed, the incident definitely raised eyebrows. Fast forward to June 2018, and Brown was once again in the spotlight, this time for holding 2 suspected male thieves at gunpoint until the police showed up. Although his baseball days are behind him, Brown's post-career life has been anything but quiet.
And here's the right-hander Kevin Brown, who was tough on Atlanta last NLCS while pitching with Florida.
Brown's journey to the big leagues began when he was selected as the 4th overall pick in the 1986 draft out of Georgia Tech. Though he faced contract issues with the Rangers later in his career, as a high draft pick, he signed relatively quickly, joining the team on July 17th that summer. Brown wasted no time getting to work, pitching in 6 games in the minors that season. His combined ERA across the Rookie League Gulf Coast and AA Tulsa was 5.6. At Tulsa, he pitched 3 games, logging 10 innings, and gave up 7 runs on 9 hits and 5 walks. Brown's major league debut came on September 30th, and it was a memorable one. He earned his first professional win against the Oakland Athletics, leading the Rangers to a 9-5 victory at Arlington Stadium. He allowed just 2 runs in 5 innings. With that performance, Brown followed in the footsteps of Rangers' first-round picks like Jeff Kunkel, Ottoby McDowell, Bobby Witt, and Pete Incaviglia. Like them, Brown managed to make his major league debut without spending a full season in the minors. But the following year, 1987, was nothing short of a disaster. Brown struggled across 3 different levels: Class A Port Charlotte, AA Tulsa, and AAA Oklahoma City, and ended up with a dismal 1.11 record and a 6.49 ERA. Though he won Tulsa's home opener, he went on to lose 11 straight decisions. When the Rangers selected pitcher Brian Bohannon as their top pick in the 1987 draft, it raised questions about whether the team saw Brown as a bust. The Rangers believe Brown's issues stem from not pitching inside enough and allowing too many hits. Whatever the problem was, things started to turn around for him in 1988. Brown returned to AA Tulsa and found his rhythm, finishing the season with a solid 12-10 record and a 3.51 ERA in 26 starts. His performance earned him a spot on the Texas League All-Star team. Once again, he got the call to the big leagues in September. In his first start back with the Rangers on September 14th, he faced the Oakland Athletics and dominated, leading his team to a 9-1 win. Brown threw a complete game, 4-hitter, signaling that he was finally finding his form. His performances won the hearts of many. Brown wasn't expected to make the Rangers roster out of spring training in 1989, but he surprised everyone by earning a spot in the starting rotation. He went 2-0 with a 3.12 ERA in spring training, and his rookie season proved to be solid. Brown posted a 12-9 record with a 3.35 ERA over 28 starts, throwing 7 complete games and pitching 191 innings. One of his standout performances came on June 1st in Seattle, when the game was tied 2-2 heading into the bottom of the ninth, and Brown was still on the mound. In today's game, leaving a rookie out there with over 110 pitches would be unthinkable, but manager Bobby Valentine kept Brown in. On his 125th pitch, with 1 out in the ninth, Dave Cochran hit a walk-off home run, sealing the Mariners' win. In 1990, spring training was delayed and shortened due to an owner's lockout, leaving the Rangers with only 16 exhibition games to prepare. But Brown didn't miss a beat. He had a stellar spring and carried that momentum into the regular season. He made history as the first Rangers pitcher to win his first 5 decisions of the year. Although a 4-game losing streak later cost him a spot on the All-Star team, he was still an impressive 10-6 with a 3.38 ERA at the break. However, Brown's season took a hit when he missed much of the final 6 weeks with an elbow injury, finishing 12-10 with a 3.60 ERA. The talent was there, but staying healthy and performing for a full season remained a challenge. In 1991, Brown managed to stay healthy, making 33 starts and logging a career-high 210 innings. But despite his efforts, he finished the season with a 9-12 record and a 4.40 ERA. The Rangers, while competitive with 85 wins, finished third in the AL West behind the Twins and White Sox. Brown came into camp the following year in great spirits, and it set the stage for his first truly dominant season. In 1992, Brown put everything together. He went 21-11 with a 3.32 ERA, leading the league in innings pitched with 265. His outstanding performance earned him the honor of starting for the American League in the All-Star game, and he finished 6th in the Cy Young voting. Post-strike, he was signed by the Baltimore Orioles, where he finished the season with a 10-9 record and a 3.60 ERA over 26 starts, despite missing time due to a broken pinky finger on his pitching hand. After the 1998 season, Kevin Brown once again found himself as a free agent, and this time he struck a groundbreaking deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. The contract was a staggering 7 years for $105 million, making Brown the first player in baseball history to sign a $100 million contract. However, this lucrative deal quickly earned a reputation for being one of the worst contracts in baseball history from a team perspective. ESPN Deportes' Enrique Rojas pointed out that Brown averaged only 9 wins per season during the contract and was often sidelined by injuries. In his first year with the Dodgers, Brown had a strong season, finishing with an 18-9 record, 221 strikeouts, and a solid 3.00 ERA. However, things took a turn in 2000 when he struggled with injuries, but still managed to lead the National League in ERA. Unfortunately, as the years went by, his performance began to decline, largely due to ongoing health issues and a lack of run support from his teammates. In 2003, Brown experienced a bit of a resurgence, putting together a respectable 14-9 record with 185 strikeouts and an impressive 2.39 ERA. However, on December 11, 2003, he was traded to New York. During his time with the Yankees in 2004, Brown recorded a 10-6 record and a 4.09 ERA, but health problems continued to plague him throughout the season. In the playoffs, he pitched well in the division series, giving fans hope, but his performance in the 2004 American League Championship Series, ALCS, was a different story. In his first start against the Boston Red Sox, he only lasted 2 innings, and his struggles were highlighted when he allowed a 2-run homer to David Ortiz in the first inning. Things went from bad to worse in Game 7 of the ALCS, with the Yankees trying to avoid making history as the first team to lose a series they led 3-0. Brown pitched poorly, lasting less than 2 innings and giving up 5 earned runs before leaving the game with the bases loaded. This set the stage for Johnny Damon, who hit a grand slam on the very first pitch from Javier Vazquez, further sealing Brown's negative legacy in New York. After that disappointing season, Brown attempted to make a comeback in 2005, but injuries continued to hinder him. He ended the season with a record of 4-7 and a troubling 6.50 ERA. Finally, on February 20, 2006, Brown announced his retirement from baseball, closing the chapter on a career that had seen its share of highs and lows. Brown was a pitcher with a unique talent, able to rely on both movement and velocity to keep batters off balance. His signature pitch was a sinking fastball, which averaged an impressive 91 to 96 km/h. This pitch had incredible tailing action and downward movement, making it particularly difficult for hitters to connect with. Brown was skilled at placing this fastball on either side of the plate, causing batters to either pound the ball into the ground or completely miss it altogether. To complement his powerful fastball, Brown also had a sharp slider that sat in the high 80s. This added another layer of challenge for hitters as he could mix it in effectively to keep them guessing. Additionally, he utilized a solid, split-fingered fastball, which he often reserved for left-handed batters or as a change of pace. This pitch variety made him a formidable opponent on the mound. Throughout his impressive career, Brown accumulated 201 wins, which is a significant milestone in Major League Baseball. He finished with an ERA plus of 127, indicating that he performed 27% better than the league-wide average for earned run averages during his time in the game. In fact, only 7 pitchers in history have achieved the rare feat of winning between 200 and 220 games while maintaining an ERA plus between 120 and 135. This achievement underscores just how effective Brown was on the mound and solidifies his place in baseball history. Brown was nominated for the Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility in 2011, which was a moment of pride for him and his fans, but he received only 12 votes. Unfortunately, this meant that Brown didn't receive enough support to continue being considered for future elections and was dropped from the ballot after just one attempt. One factor that may have contributed to his lack of votes was his association with the Mitchell Report, which identified him as one of several players linked to steroid use. This report cast a shadow over the careers of many athletes, including Brown, and likely influenced voters' perceptions of him. That is it for this one. But if you happen to like MLB Legends, make sure to check out our latest videos on our channel Baseball Icons. I'm sure you will love it. Oh, and while you are at it, drop a comment telling us who to cover next, and don't forget to subscribe.